Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alyson Le Grange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global South. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alyson Le Grange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Russia accuses Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky of taking insane steps that threaten to escalate war, as Kiev's forces claim to control 1,000 square kilometers of the Kursk region. The White House says an attack from Iran or its allies and proxies on Israel could be this week as the U.S. increases its military presence in West Asia. Donald Trump discusses conspiracies around global issues in a 2-hour conversation on X with Elon Musk that was initially derailed by what the tech titan said was a cyber attack. London police charge a man with attempted murder after an 11-year-old girl was stabbed in Leicester Square, one of the capital's busiest tourist areas. And medics across India protest, demanding justice and safety after a trainee doctor was raped and murdered in the city of Kolkata. Hello and welcome. We start with Sudan. Talks to end the more than a year-long civil war in the country will begin this week, but possibly without one of the warring sides at the table. The Sudanese Armed Forces, which have been fighting the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or the RSF, for over 15 months, have refused to participate in the upcoming peace talks. Mediator United States last month invited Sudan's warring sides to ceasefire talks, co-hosted with Saudi Arabia and Switzerland. The talks in Geneva are scheduled to start on Wednesday and could last up to 10 days. Though the RSF has confirmed its participation, the Sudanese army has rejected the invitation. On Sunday, consultations were held between Sudan's government and the U.S. in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. However, they ended without an agreement on whether a delegation from the army or the government would participate in the Geneva peace talks. Now, the U.S. has said that the talks will proceed this week despite the absence of the Sudan army.
We would have preferred for these talks to start in April when we began trying for this round, if not April, May, if not May, June, then July. But we will move forward with this event this week, and that has been made clear to the parties. We have had a commitment and engagement from the RSF. We've had extensive engagement with the SAF, but they have not yet given us an affirmation, which would be necessary today for moving forward with seating them on the 14th.
Though RSF leader General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo reiterated his force's participation in the talks, he has announced a new force to continue its offensive in Sudan. In recent days, the RSF has continued its assault in parts of Sudan, including the areas near the capital Khartoum. The attacks have killed children in a designated safe space. The fighting has particularly intensified in the city of Al-Fashir in southwest Sudan, where at least 40 were killed during the morning prayers last week. Thousands have been trapped in the city without access to humanitarian aid. The U.S. says the situation in Al-Fashir will be specifically emphasized during the talks. But Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan has reservations. He has said the RSF's actions, particularly its occupation of civilian areas, despite agreements made last year, have hindered him from sending a delegation for the talks. Last month, Sudan's army chief survived an assassination attempt after a drone targeted an army base that he was visiting. The chief blamed the attack on the RSF and ruled out any negotiations with the paramilitary. While the army has also raised concerns about the presence of the UAE in Sudan peace talks, Washington has insisted UAE's participation as an observer in the talks. The Sudanese government has outrightly rejected it, as it has accused the UAE of providing weapons to the RSF. The UAE has denied the allegations. So the Sudanese government will be a no-show in Geneva, and it is almost certain that the talks will be another failed attempt to bring peace. The civil war that erupted in April last year in Sudan has killed thousands, while over 10 million people have been uprooted from their homes. The UN says the country is on the brink of famine. The mediators have emphasized that there is no military solution for the conflict and only a dialogue could prevail. What would it take for both the sides to reach the negotiating table? Now, to discuss this further, we have with us Nicodemus Minde, a researcher at the Institute for Security Studies. He joins us live from Nairobi. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Now, what are the main objectives of the Sudan peace talks, considering the Sudan's warring sides, one of which have not confirmed their attendance? What are the prospects of a ceasefire deal emerging from these talks?
Well, as you have rightly put it in your introduction, these talks have been delayed since April. This was 12 months into the conflict. Now we are actually approaching the 15th month since the conflict erupted in April last year. So these talks actually are latest in several international efforts to bring to an end the war that has claimed, as you have put it, the lives of so many people and caused a lot of humanitarian crisis. But of course, it is also, these talks are aimed at providing some sort of a mechanism to monitor and implement some of the previous ceasefire agreements that have been reached by international actors. And if you can also read into to find that the United States has promised that these talks are not just about a ceasefire in themselves, but just a general launching of a process that will kickstart future discussions for ceasefire. That's the reason for the meeting.
Absolutely. And Sudan's army leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has said that the military will not join the talks. What are the reasons behind the military's non-confirmation, and what efforts are being made to encourage their participation?
So you find that the army chief, that is Fattah al-Burhan, has actually made some sort of reservations about, first, the participation of the RSF as a result of their continued incursion in parts of southwest Sudan, and the killings in Al-Fashar and the abduction of cities and the like. So he has reservations about the participation of the RSF, who have actually confirmed that they're going to participate in these talks in Geneva. But of course, there's also reservations, as your story has actually rightly put it, about the participation of the UAE, which by all reports, international reports, show that there is some sort of connection, or which are providing some sort of support to the rapid support forces in terms of weapons and weapons and diplomatic alliances. So the UAE, of course, has denied these particular claims, but those are the reservations that the Al-Burhan and the South Sudan Armed Forces has about their participation in these peace talks.
Right, and Nicodemus, can we explore what are the contributions and also the influence of the United States and Saudi Arabia in these peace talks?
So if I may be able to give you some sort of a context, this conflict has a number of international dynamics, regional as well. So we have regional actors into the conflict, the likes of Egypt, the likes of African countries who are really interested in the resolution of this particular conflict. But we also have Gulf countries that are also interested in this conflict, the likes of Saudi Arabia, because the first round of talks that were carried out in the immediate aftermath of the conflict that happened last year were the Jeddah talks, which we saw now the involvement of Saudi Arabia. Of course, the United States is also an international actor because of its continued demands or calls for a cessation of hostilities, and of course for calling for issues around humanitarian, dealing with humanitarian crisis. So we see a plethora of actors, not just regional, but also international actors, who have also are intertwined in terms of their responsibilities and needs in terms of international politics as well as geopolitics. That's why you find the United States heavily involved in these particular talks. Of course, they also offer some sort of as a guarantor to these talks.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa and for your analysis and insights on the latest on these peace talks.
Thank you very much.
Shifting focus to Kenya, the hearing resumes in one of the world's worst cult-related tragedies. The leader of a Kenyan cult who allegedly inspired over 400 followers to starve themselves to death has pleaded not guilty to the manslaughter charges. Self-proclaimed Pastor Paul Mackenzie appeared in court in the coastal city of Mombasa alongside 94 other suspects. Mackenzie was arrested in April last year. Over 400 bodies, including those of children, were recovered from mass graves in the areas that he owned in Shakahola, a remote forest in eastern Kenya. Autopsies revealed that most victims had died of hunger, but many, including children, appeared to have been strangled, beaten, or suffocated. Mackenzie allegedly told his followers that if they starve, they would get to heaven more quickly and meet Jesus. The discoveries of mass graves sent shockwaves across Kenya and the world. Since then, the incident has been dubbed the Shakahola Massacre. The bodies have not yet been identified. So far, only 34 bodies have been returned. Now, the prosecution says over 400 witnesses will testify over the next 4 days as the trial continues. The prosecution describes the case as unique in Kenya, and the suspects would be prosecuted under a law relating to suicide pacts. Mackenzie is also facing 2 other trials, one for terrorism, which started in July. Another one is on child abuse charges, which include subjecting children to torture, assault, cruelty, and infringing a child's right to education. Mackenzie has denied all the charges. He had a controversial past even before he moved to the remote Shakahola forest in 2019. In 2017 and 2018, he was arrested for encouraging children not to go to school, as he claimed education was satanic. Last November, he was sentenced to a year in prison for illegally operating a film studio associated with his preaching and distributing films without a valid filming license. The case has raised concerns about the cult culture in Kenya. The East African country has a highly religious population, with several cases of people being lured into dangerous, unregulated churches or cults. In Central Africa, the trade dispute between neighbors Democratic Republic of Congo and Zambia has shown signs of easing. Zambia and the DRC have agreed to reopen their border after it was shut amid tensions. Congo says talks are underway to enable a rapid reopening of the border. On Sunday, Zambia announced the closure of the border after its northern neighbor, DRC, imposed a ban on import of soft drinks, beer and lime from the country. The Congolese government's decision triggered protests by truckers in areas bordering Zambia. Now, Zambia said it closed the border to protect its truck drivers as the protests escalated. The ban, saying it could set a dangerous precedent for future ties and lead to heavy loss of jobs. This dispute came just a few months after the two neighbours signed a cooperation agreement under the Southern African Development Community, aiming to make cross-border trade easier. Zambia's decision to shut its border threatened DRC's ability to export its minerals. The Democratic Republic of Congo has massive gold, copper and cobalt reserves in its mineral-rich east. It is by far the world's biggest producer of cobalt, which is in high demand and is used in batteries that power electric vehicles, smartphones and computers. DRC is also the world's second biggest producer and third largest exporter of copper, producing about 2.84 million tons in 2023. But the landlocked nation relies on Zambia for its exports. The Democratic Republic of Congo's minerals are typically sent by road to Zambia, passing through the town of Kasumbalesa, and then to regional ports in Tanzania, South Africa and Namibia for shipping. Zambia is also a key gateway for the DRC's imports. So the border closure by Zambia created a crisis for DRC's mineral industry as it blocked a key export route. For now, the Democratic Republic of Congo says it would authorize the import of goods covered under the ban, whose importation had been initiated before the ban came into effect. But tensions continue to simmer as the two sides still look for a permanent solution to the dispute. And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and the crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. In the heart of West Africa, where legends and history intertwine, a city awakens to the sound of celebration. Porto Novo, Benin's cultural jewel, has become a stage where masked figures emerge from the shadows, bringing with them the stories of generations past. This is more than just a festival. It is a journey into the soul of a nation, where every mask tells a tale. Our next report brings you all the details.
In the heart of Benin, the capital city of Porto Novo buzzed with excitement as a brand new festival took center stage. The Porto Novo Mask Festival, a 3-day celebration, welcomed participants from across Benin and neighboring countries like Togo and Burkina Faso. The streets thrummed with traditional music, while the air was alive with the energy of acrobats and stilt walkers perched on towering 8-meter poles. It was a vibrant, colourful spectacle filled with the spirit of both celebration and reverence.
You've seen that the people are very happy, they're expressing themselves, they're having a good time. And I think this is how we're going to show people that Benin is full of cultural potential.
The festival wasn't just about entertainment, it was a celebration of Benin's rich cultural heritage and a proud display of the country's deep-rooted traditions. The event was launched by the government and city officials to replace the usual Porto Novo International Festival held in January, and it was a stunning success. Crowds marvelled at the rare appearance of masked and costumed figures, some of which are usually kept hidden away in their respective regions. The festival was a dazzling mix of secular and religious masks, showing the profound connection between the people and their ancestral spirits.
Our parents had hidden voodoo masks, but the rest of us, like everything else, are now rediscovering, so we are bringing them out. There, the masks that came out of Voodoo Hound, it is their pride. They are internationally recognized.
Among the festival's main attractions were the Gonuko, towering masked figures native to Porto Novo, and the Zangbeto, the traditional Vodun guardians of the night. These figures, along with the rare Hunwe mask, captivated the audience, leaving a lasting impression on all who witnessed their grandeur.
We saw masks being paraded and we thought it was extraordinary. It reminded me of some shots from the Caribbean when you watch a festival, and I wasn't expecting to have a nice surprise like that in Benin. The quality was exceptional. The organization was super. Truly, congratulations.
Vraiment, félicitations.
The festival was more than just a cultural showcase. It was an opportunity to shine a spotlight on Porto Novo and to promote tourism. The city's mayor proudly noted that the event put Porto Novo in the spotlight, attracting visitors from near and far. Earlier in the year, the government had also revamped Benin's famous Voodoo festival, underscoring its commitment to preserving and promoting the country's cultural heritage.
Today, we're making it more professional and we're positioning ourselves, especially in relation to masks. From now on, Porto Novo is a city that will be stand out and set itself apart, because we now have an event that really puts us in the spotlight, the Festival of Masks.
So, as the festival came to a close, there was a sense of fulfillment in the air. Porto Novo had not only celebrated its past, but had also set the stage for a future where its traditions and culture would continue to thrive. The Porto Novo Mask Festival was more than just an event. It was a testament to the enduring beauty and wealth of Benin's cultural heritage. And for those who attended, it was an unforgettable experience, filled with joy, pride, and a deeper understanding of the rich tapestry that is Benin.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching and goodbye. Hello and welcome to Fast and Factual on First Post, where we bring